Just wanted to jump on before our episode starts and give a trigger warning. We do discuss some heavy topics in this episode.
We discuss pedophilia, which might be triggering or uncomfortable, so we recommend not listening if that's a hard topic for you, and this is definitely not an episode for children. Welcome to Sisters Not Saints, the podcast where we give real-life advice from the sisters you've always wanted.
Featuring two real-life sisters, Kristen and Megan, and two real-life sisters-in-law, Hillary and Zoe.
Sisters not saints. You might think they're saints, but some of them are sisters. Two of them have misters, but there's one thing that's for certain, it's their sisters not saints.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan.
This is Kristen.
I'm Hillary.
And I'm Zoe, still in Memphis.
Wah, wah.
Is everyone hanging out without me?
We have
Well-
Zoe has been coming home for the weekends, but this is the first weekend she didn't come home from Memphis. And we had so much fun without you this weekend.
Yeah, and we did
How
something.
rude.
Yeah, we did something we originally thought, oh, Zoe's gonna be so sad she missed this, but turns out I'm kind of glad you missed it.
I think you'd be sad to have gone and done what we did.
I think you would have ended up saying...
Was it kitten?
It wasn't kittens, but it was animal related. We had a wild hare and decided to trek out about an hour from our houses and went to visit a dairy farm.
with baby cows,
Oh.
little baby dairy cows,
Oh.
literally 1 day old.
No.
Yeah, we saw a cow that was born the night before, and he was so cute.
So cute until you go on the tour and they kind of start walking you through the tour with like very defensive behavior. You know, you go on these tours and you're not thinking anything. You're not an inspector. You know nothing about the dairy industry. So you just take it at face value.
An inspector.
Right. But then you're walking through the barn and they're starting to point out things and they're saying, well, don't pay attention to this, or we do it like this because of activists on the internet. Like, don't take pictures.
Well, when they first parked the trailer at where the cows are, the very first thing the tour guide said was, now, before we get off, let me go ahead and answer questions because I know you guys read stuff on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, yes, we take them away from their mothers right away, but listen, they're not good mothers.
They're
and they
terrible
can
mothers.
Step on the babies and kill them, and they're like the milk's not even good for them. It hurts their stomachs.
They're born with a
and-
sterile stomach, so they don't even need to be with their mothers right away or at all.
They actually do really need the colostrum.
Yeah.
Well, they
And the
They
first
did
couple
give
weeks-
them colostrum.
She's like, they get one nursing from their mother. They get the colostrum, and
And
then
that-
they have to build immunity on their own for 6 weeks away from the mother.
And I'm sure you're going to ask about their dirty pins, but they go out of their pins tomorrow, so it would just be a waste of time for us to clean them.
And
was
they
so
were
weird.
dirty. They were so dirty. But, you know, if she hadn't said any of that, we would have walked into the barn and just thought, like, they're cows. I don't know when
Cows
the
are
last time
dirty,
you cleaned
yeah.
it. Like, you probably shoveled this out 2 hours ago. I have no idea.
Same. I would have had zero questions, but they like started off so defensive that I was like, oh, wait, are you doing something wrong?
And then so like we went and saw the baby cows first, and they were like, now there's a whole aisle you can't go down because those cows are really sick, and so we don't want anyone going near those sick cows. And we were like, it was just weird. It was like the vibe was weird, and it's like you almost felt like you were in trouble for being there.
Yeah, and
Or
they
that you were
stood
there
guard at that aisle. So like anytime you got close to the sick cow aisle, you had to like quickly veer away and go around.
Yeah,
it.
it's like they thought we were there to like bust them.
Yes. And it would have been different had they said like, welcome, like, please ask us any questions you have, or like, these cows are this old. We, you know, we take them. But I don't know. It was just so, like like we were inspectors. They were very defensive, and it just,
And they did say you can take photos, but don't take any videos.
yeah.
in one part where the babies
Yeah.
are. So when we were visiting the babies, you could take photos, but no videos.
So we visited the babies for a while, and let me just say, it smelled so bad.
yeah, which is expected.
I mean, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
going to smell
It's
bad.
cow proof.
Yeah.
It's going to stink.
Yeah.
But then you go to pet the cows, which it was so fun. And that part was really, they were cute and so fun. And they would lick you. And their tongues feel like cat tongues. They're really sharp and fuzzy. And that was fun. But the tops of their heads, we noticed, were covered in blood and had these little like
scabs.
holes, like these 2 holes on tops of their heads. So Hillary asked them, what is this? And what was their explanation? It was just...
Well, they dehorned them because they said they can be very aggressive, which is, again, like, I I don't know anything about farming or cows, so I don't question anything they were saying, except for that so much of it was so defensive. And after the baby cows, they drove us further in to where the milking process is. And there, before we got off the trailer, they were like, we don't allow videos or photos in here because we know you guys will post it on the internet and what all the activists are going to do. So we can't allow that. And it was just like,
which immediately makes you start thinking like, okay,
why
what's
are
happening?
activists coming for
Right.
you?
Like, what's happening in here that activists are going to have a problem with?
Activists are not
Yeah.
inherently evil. They're just looking out for you, for the food chain, for the animals. Like,
It just made me, the whole time I felt like, can I be your PR person
Right.
and like help you word things better? Like they could have so easily said like, we don't allow photos or videos in here because it startles the cows. Or, you know, our policy is no videos because it's
Trade secrets.
yeah,
anything,
business.
like
But so many of them
practices.
did like throw out like, you crazy activist
Yeah.
out there. And then it was like, well, why? And then they were like, look, we know you guys are going to ask about our skinny cows, but our cows love being skinny and bony. They love it. They
we
prefer
breed them
it.
this
we
way.
like them to be
Yeah.
tall and skinny. So they look tall and skinny, and that's what we prefer. And wouldn't you prefer it if you had 80 pounds of udders?
And I told
you
him-
would want to be tall
I told
and
Kristen,
not
I'm like, if I'm a 2-ton cow, the least of my problems is an 80-pound udder.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just
And they
also,
were
it
tall
may,
and bony.
I'm sure they have been farming for almost a century, and they could be 100% right that that's totally normal, and the
It's
cows
just
may
a
prefer
weird
it.
way to say
But it was
it.
just the way they were like, we know you're going to ask about our bony cow, and it was like I wouldn't have even noticed
Right,
had
I
you
just-
not pointed it out to me.
I wasn't looking at all at their body shape, their body type. I accepted it at face value until you start with these little things. And then
Yeah.
there was another little tidbit when we left about their inspection process.
Oh yeah, Peter overheard one of the other people that was on the tour with us talking to the guide, and she was like, "Yeah, it's just crazy here because the inspectors show up with no notice, which, of course,
You're
that's
in
how
the food
inspections
industry.
work."
Yeah.
And she was like, "We failed our last inspection, so we finally paid off somebody so that we can get a 2-day warning before inspectors come, but we still failed." And I'm like, why are you telling customers this?
And it was her way of saying like regulations are too harsh, and we need, like, us farmers, they're being too harsh on us and we have to do things a certain way. And I get that. Like, I work in an industry where we have really strict regulations that sometimes don't really make sense and they come in unexpected, but also like I would never tell customers, oh, we're not following the rules and we're failing. But also if you're failing, like that's
Yeah.
a red flag. Like,
Yeah,
I don't-
especially
it
when
was-
you're
I don't like
serving
it.
food and you're telling us the stores you're serving your product to and how you're one of the biggest suppliers in the South. And it's like, you're telling me that you're failing your inspections?
It was just
That was weird.
it felt yucky being there. And like, I guess I was under the impression that it was like a small family creamery. And so even if this stuff is happening in like the back rooms, I expected there to be like kind of like a very washed up version of this that like you
like
see like
some
their
pet
prettiest,
cows.
cutest little
Yeah.
cows in like a little area and like this like quaint little milking room and things like that. I didn't expect to be like
Like a farm operation that you see
Yeah.
in those videos where they're like, this is how cows are treated.
Yeah. Oh, and then
It's
they
like-
said that they have 1,400 cows and they milk them every 2 hours and they keep them pregnant every year to keep their
No,
milk.
I think
like,
she said they milk them twice a day.
Oh, really? I thought it was
Yeah.
every 2 hours.
No,
Okay.
because she was like, they get milked twice a day. It only
Okay.
takes about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So they're not
That
being
makes
milked all the
sense.
time.
Okay. But so yeah, they milk them twice a day and that they keep them pregnant every single year so that their milk stays good and doesn't dry
missed that.
up.
That's when Dash was talking to me about the cow's weenie, and I
Yeah.
missed a lot of that.
Yeah, so they like do artificial insemination every year to keep them pregnant so their milk stays fresh. I'm like, that's just a really crappy way to live.
So
Poor
our
cow.
kids like loved this place. They thought it was a fun place to visit, but I think all of them said, "Ooh, we don't want milk anymore. We don't ever want to drink milk again."
Honestly, if we had gone in and they had said nothing
Yeah.
like that sounded weird, I really wouldn't have thought anything of it. I really, except maybe the like bloody horns, but I was like, I didn't, the cows weren't chained up or locked up. They milked and then they were set free to roam, and it didn't seem like abusive, but like everything they said, then that's what really made me like question it.
Yeah. And maybe they are running like they're super nice to their animals, the most humane operation, but they just made it sound like it
so
wasn't.
sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Because if they're this upfront about this, you know, it always makes you wonder, like, if I peel back the layers, what else are you doing here?
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like if I had taken a video or a photo, I don't know, like, to me, there wasn't anything that was like incriminating.
No.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause it was
But
just,
it just makes me wonder.
right. It
what
was
is
just like a
happening.
regular operation of like cows getting hooked up to milkers and
Yeah.
then going on
It's
their
like
way.
what you see on TV.
I mean, it's
you
like,
know?
yeah, maybe it could have been like cleaner or I don't know. Even it's,
I don't know.
that's just
It's
what
a
I would
lot
expect
of
for
cows
cows
to keep up with.
Yeah.
That's just what you would kind of
Yeah.
expect.
yeah. So
The
I mean,
creamery itself, where they
Yeah.
sold ice cream and grilled cheese and things, was adorable and
Really cute.
delicious.
yeah, it was really good.
That was good. But then I kept thinking about the failed inspections too. So I was eating the ice cream thinking like, did this pass? Or is this the milk that didn't pass that you're now serving in the creamery? Either way, it did taste good. So all's well that ends well.
Okay, well, I'm really glad I wasn't there.
Yeah, it was interesting. And again, I really feel like they just need like PR training.
Yeah,
But it was
totally.
just like, no, you don't
Right.
start off being
Or
defensive.
why are they giving tours? Is it bringing in that much money? Why can't they just sell the milk and
Right.
have an ice cream shop?
Well, maybe it's for like community support and involvement and probably is extra money. And I think all that's great. They just need like a different
approach.
A different
Yeah.
spin on it.
Yeah.
Or say nothing. Just kind of go with the cutesy farm tour. And they're new to the area. They've only been here 2 years. I'm guessing they'll
No, they've
add
been
on to
here
this.
9 years, but the creamery
Oh,
opened
okay.
2 years ago.
got it. Okay. So
Yeah.
I guess they're adding to it.
So it was interesting.
All right, I'm going to turn this conversation from cows to pedophiles.
Okay.
Love it.
Let's do it.
Just
Love
an
it.
easy transition there.
Right.
Perfect.
Love it.
But it's because I really want to talk about this topic. And
We love to
Zoe doesn't, but
talk pedophiles. Let's do it.
So he doesn't like to talk about pedophiles.
she just looks horrified that I said pedophiles on here.
All right, so
All
talk
right,
to us
Hillary,
about
tell us-
pedophiles.
Okay, so there's an article that came out, and there's so much I want to talk about with this article, but it's a Texas teacher faces termination after a video showed her telling students to use the term minor attracted persons instead of pedophiles. A student said the 18-second clip was taken out of context. So there was a clip, and in the 18-second clips that a student took, she says, "Stop calling them that. You're not allowed to label people like that. Stop it, Diego. We are not going to call them that. We are going to call them MAPs or MAPs, minor attracted persons. So don't judge people just because they want to have sex with a 5-year-old." This clip came out. It went to, I guess, the school board, and she did lose her job. But now the students are coming out and saying, no, this was all taken out of context. That was just a clip from like a really long conversation. We had read The Crucible. We got into this deep discussion. And she was actually saying kind of how ridiculous it is that we can't call them pedophiles.
Yeah.
And they just took like that clip that sounded, more extreme or more opinionated when she really wasn't saying that.
Yeah, I did hear about this story. And yes, they are like taking it and running with the headline, "Teacher fired after defending pedophiles." But then, yes, once you peel back the layers and dig in, that's not at all what she was doing. And in fact, it was more about, it was in Texas, right? It was more about all of the restrictions that have been placed on teachers and what they can and can't say in class and what they can and can't teach. And she was kind of going into that.
Yeah, it was more of like an exaggerated, like sarcastic sort of conversation.
Which I guess still inappropriate.
Is
but
it though?
I don't know that it is because I was just sitting here playing devil's avocado, as Zoe would say. I don't think it's necessary. I think it would be inappropriate if she were lecturing them this way and saying this is how we, talk about this group of people. I think it is totally fair for a teacher to open it up for discussion and say, let's take opposing viewpoints on this. I did that in high school all the time. Back in 2001, before it was legal, we had to argue. She would our English teacher would hand out various arguments and we would have to take one side or the other. And I had to write a paper on the pluses of adoption as a gay couple. And someone else had to write the opposing side, even though we didn't necessarily, like, it had nothing to do with our personal beliefs, even though mine did align. So it was easier to write. But I think it's totally fair to weigh these things out in a classroom. To
What
say,
was the grade that this was?
if you're reading The Crucible, it's at least 8th through high school.
It was definitely high school. I don't remember it saying the grade. I'm sure it's somewhere online, but I don't know. But so somebody who was against her on the school board said she should not have strayed as far as she did. Hypothetically, I could have the best lesson plan in the world, but if I don't follow the lesson plan and I deviate into some areas I shouldn't be teaching about or talking about the lesson plan, the lesson plan is kind of pointless. And I 100% disagree with that statement. As a teacher, of course, you have a lesson plan. You go into it. But even when I taught first grade, your plan deviates because kids have certain interests, certain questions. It goes into all sorts of things. And I was always taught that that's good and you should delve into what the kids are asking.
Right.
It keeps them interested. You're in school, and I just think it's getting so ridiculous at the standards the teachers are being held to, and to say that you have to teach this, you can't teach this, you can't teach my child this. Like, no, they're in school and they're not only meant to be educated on academics, but you're there to learn how to be social, how to relate to people, how to have debates.
Critical
Right.
thinking.
Yes, exactly. Critical thinking. And I don't think a teacher should go in giving their straight up opinions. Like, I don't think any teacher should say this is who I voted for and this is
Right.
why, because they shouldn't be swaying a student one way or the other, but they should be offering up, this is how one side thinks, this is how the other side thinks,
Right.
and then let the students debate and the teacher's there to be the mediator between that and let them have those discussions. And that's really important. I'm sorry, but teenagers are in the real world. Most of them are working. They're dealing with adults. They're online. They're on social media. They're getting this information whether you want them to or not. And it's good for them to be in school and have a conversation with an adult they can trust. Obviously, I'm passionate about this, but it infuriates me that teachers are held to like ridiculous standards. You can't say anything without getting in trouble.
Right. I think it is fair for teachers to provide the framework for a discussion or an argument. You don't have to necessarily teach them one way is right or wrong. You're just teaching them how to think critically and honestly how to put yourself in someone else's shoes and think about it from a different angle. Because even as you were saying that, in my mind, my first response was, oh my God, no, we're not calling them minor attracted persons. Like, they are a pedophile. And then as I was like thinking about it, I thought, what if I had to argue the other side? Is there an argument there? And I think it is healthy to do that with things, new concepts, because it does challenge you to think about it from a different perspective. And while I may eventually get back to the idea that, like, no, a pedophile is a pedophile, I think it's still good to kind of weigh out the logic behind different concepts as they're introduced and then decide where you land on it. Play both sides.
And there is another side to that argument, because when you read more into this, they were discussing how there are people who are pedophiles attracted to children but have not acted on it, and it's like a mental illness. And those people are like advocating to be called minor attracted persons. They don't want to be called a pedophile because they haven't acted on it, and they're like in therapy and they're trying to get help, and they don't want to be attracted to young people. But I'm not saying I agree with not calling them pedophiles. I'm honestly not sure how I feel, because that's just very disturbing to me. But it's another argument, and I think that's okay for them and the kids in the class to like have these discussions.
To hear that angle, yeah. Right.
But I do think a pedophile is still a pedophile even if they haven't acted on it.
It is. That is the definition of
Right.
it.
Because you haven't committed the crime, but you're still a pedophile.
Right.
We don't need to like make this sound better that you're a minor attracted person.
No.
You're a pedophile.
Yeah. But those people
Like, kudos to
don't
you that you
want
haven't.
those derogatory terms. That's their argument.
I'm sorry that you have this that your mental illness is pedophilia. That is the mental illness.
It's a danger. It's like a person that's psychotic.
I don't want to say I'm pro pedophiles, but
Okay.
as playing devil's astronaut, I am on team like those people have an illness. I don't think anybody grows up and is like, I want to abuse children. That is a mental illness, and sometimes people can't get help. Even the four of us, we can't even barely manage our own anxieties. How can someone who has this thing in their head like stop that? Don't think that means they need to be around children or not be in jail. But
Yeah, I agree. It's a mental illness.
I don't think
but
they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, I
No.
agree. It's a mental illness, but I still think we can call them what they are. Like, I'm sorry that your
Yeah.
name for your mental illness has such nasty side effects, but you're
Yeah.
still a pedophile, and maybe you're in treatment to keep you from committing the crime, but you're still a pedophile.
And
You're not a
is-
minor attracted person.
Maybe there is a benefit to calling them something like a minor attracted person if it makes them come forward before they act on it. Like if they feel like there's a community of people willing to support. Like if we say, look, thank you for telling us. You can never be around children. You're going to be open about this. You can't live near children. You can't, everyone's going to be watching you. But we would at least rather know before you act on it. Like, isn't that maybe better than them hiding in secret, hiding in these corners on the internet, going out and stalking kids because they can't talk about it?
I don't know.
I don't want to hear about it.
I
Right.
agree.
I don't want to hear
Society-
about it, but I'm just saying, isn't it better?
I get that. Like, let's make it. I don't know. Let's make it a safe space for them to talk about these issues. But I don't even know that we should be making it a safe space for them. The world isn't a safe space for you.
I do.
I know. I get where you're coming from.
Well,
That it's like
I want to hear
let's-
Zoe's, like, because she does have an interesting viewpoint, I think.
Well, just even, I mean, it's 2022 and society still doesn't accept gay people. They're still calling that a mental illness. So like 100 years from now, we may be like, okay, these pedophiles have a mental illness and let's figure out how.
we can't compare pedophiles to gay people.
No, I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying like societally, like accepted, like.
No, I don't think as a society we need to
Yeah,
accept
No, I
pedophiles.
don't think that's what she's saying. And I hear what she's saying. Like, I don't think that we're accepting it. I think there needs to be a place for them to go where they can get help before they act on it. Where they know if
the problem
if
is
I
is-
raise my hand and I say, look, it's kind of like, suicide hotlines. Like there needs to be a place where if you say, I'm having these urges, I'm having these, I might act on it. Where can I go to get help where I won't be, like a danger to someone or a danger to myself?
But that's the problem, though, is there's nowhere for them to go.
That is the problem.
Would you say that being a serial killer comes
Right.
from a mental illness?
Or trauma.
I would.
And then would you then be like their repetitive dead person attractiveness or something? Like, should we change the term for
No, I think
everybody
they
who's
have
some
a-
sort of severe illness that causes them to
Exactly.
be
Like, I think
a
because then it's like,
criminal?
oh, no, I'm not. I just like to have sex with dead people. It's my mental illness.
I don't think
I'm not a criminal. I'm mentally ill.
I don't think you can use mental illness as an out. That's what I'm saying. None
Right.
of this should be excused. It is never, ever okay to have these thoughts, ideas, definitely not to act on it. No one agrees with that. No one on any side of any political spectrum. But is there a way to make it easier to avoid these things happening to children? To keep kids safer? Like, what can we do to make kids safer? If we appease them and say, okay, look, we'll call you minor attracted people, and then they feel like that's less offensive to say, will they then be more likely to go to therapy, get help, keep themselves away from children? Like, that's just the question. I don't know. None of
Yeah.
us know. But
if that were the case, yeah,
right.
then that would be great to have them
So then,
stay away from children, have less.
So the goal is as a society to get to where we just accept these people walking
No.
amongst
No,
us.
not accept
and be like, what do they wear? Like a badge? Like, oh, that's a map. Kids, get away. There's a map over there.
I would rather know. But it's also not accepting them. I mean, it's not accepting. It's making maybe an avenue, and I don't know this for sure. It's just like an idea. Like, is
Right,
it
but
an
it's like, so
avenue?
where do they go? What do they do?
Go to therapy.
Yeah,
Keep
but I don't.
yourself, like, register yourself. Keep yourself away from children, away from schools. You can't be a teacher. You can't be a coach.
But I feel like then the same argument could be made for just straight up rapists. It's like, yeah, I'm somebody who, not me personally, this is a hypothetical. I'm someone who's turned on by like forcible rape. But I'm just going to register myself as like someone who is sexually attracted to forcible rape. Is this opening the door for anybody who has what do we call them? Alternative interests. Like if someone who's turned on by and can only perform sexually if it's under like a situation where there's forcible rape, then do you register yourself as a forcible rapist?
Well, so I think there are communities of people, men and women, that do enjoy that sort of thing, and they can find consenting partners that are into like a more forcible experience.
No, but there's
no avenue of that. Like there should be no avenue for children, obviously.
No, but there's a difference between like a role play situation and someone who has to forcibly rape somebody.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like
Hypothetically, if calling them maps kept them somehow from
But it wouldn't.
hurting children and got them the help that they needed to keep, then I would call them maps. But yeah, I don't see how that's possible. And it does open up a door to all people who have these urges that are criminal. I'm a very empathetic person, but I find it very hard to be sympathetic or empathetic towards anybody who
I do too.
would do that.
Yeah.
I do too. I mean, I know
I
that
do-
it is mental illness and trauma, whatever, but I have zero empathy for anyone that harms a child.
Yeah. And
And I don't know that I even hope that we get to a place as a society where we can accept these people. I don't know.
No, I don't want I hope that's not what my comments were saying, that we accept them. I think it's just, is there a way to remove them from the population, or make some, give us a heads up, that's what you're thinking. So I know that you're not coaching my kids' sports teams. You're not, a teacher at their school. You're not.
But I guess the problem is, though, is that, Eddie, go ahead, Zoe.
Isn't that what they're saying? What is wrong with someone who has these thoughts but isn't acting on it?
well, I mean, if you found out there was someone who had registered themselves as a minor attracted person, they'd had it under control, and then we're now coaching your child. For me,
No,
that would be a
obviously
hard no. You should never be allowed to work with children.
If they register themselves as that they were not allowed to be around children.
But I guess the problem is the people that would register themselves still aren't the people you'd have to worry about, I guess, or are just they've now found that this is a way to alleviate
but they
concerns.
would be because
You just move them all to minor attracted person island.
Well, and to answer Zoe's question, like, what is the problem with people that think about it but don't act on it? It's because even thinking about it is thinking about harming a child. It's in your mind fantasizing about doing something that is harmful to a child's psyche, their future. Kids cannot consent. It is harmful for them to be put in a position.
Person isn't controlling those thoughts. Just like, don't you have crazy thoughts in your head with anxiety and you're spiraling out?
But
you
it's
can't
directed
control
at me. It's not directed at kids. Like, if I started having anxiety thoughts about children, I would want to be separated from my kids.
Someone who's attracted to children and is admitting that they have this issue in their brain is not going to be the person who's doing that as well. Like, that's the point, is like, if we call them something different and we give them help, they don't want to have these thoughts. Just like I don't want to have the crazy thoughts in my head. Like these people none of us can understand this because we don't have this thought.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of those people grew up and were like, oh, let me have this crazy thing that can put me in jail, that can get me killed, that will harm other people. Like, no one grows up wanting that.
Yeah, I get that. And I do understand they're not choosing it. But at the same time, we do have to treat them differently because they're having these thoughts. It's like someone that's suicidal. Like, I know it's not their fault, but yeah, I may have to call and get you put under a 5150 because I don't want you to harm yourself or harm someone else. So I think we do have to treat them like with some delicacy. I don't know if that's the word.
Yeah, I think they should be treated differently and have more support.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Men and women are physically and physiologically responsive to other people, sometimes outside their relationships. And because they're in a relationship, they have to control it. It is a choice that we are able to make, even if you have that attraction to others. So I don't know why we would hold them to a different standard. Just because you are a minor attracted person, a pedophile, why are we saying like, well, he can't control it when all of us are controlling our urges or whatever, weekly, whatever, we have to suppress these things because of society, our relationships, the rules and boundaries we have.
But you can control your panic attack and not getting them?
Well, I do have to get help for that,
Yeah, that's what they're saying, is that they want help to be labeled differently instead of, ooh, they're like somebody calling us crazy.
But don't you think there's some moral grayness here? Like, morally gray. Like, I feel like they have this, either it's like trauma or mental illness, and there's some moral grayness in their cores, because I feel like if I had this problem, I would be one to raise my hand and say, I've got this problem, never let me around kids.
Yeah. And I'll say for me personally, I'm not at a point, and I don't think society is either, where we're ready to accept those people and just say it's mental illness and we can get them help and live peacefully.
Well, I think that's the point where none of us have said accept it. I think it's just how do we remove them before they're more of a threat? Can we protect more kids? And I think jury's out. Like, we don't know if that would help or not.
I can agree with that. I'm very hot. This is
But also transitioning out of this into something lighter about this topic, I think this is a good lesson to everybody that you can't just read the headlines on a story, because this
Correct.
entire headline got this teacher fired for something that she didn't even do.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody now having a camera phone and being able to take a clip of a moment that then someone is judged by for the rest of their life, that's just, it's getting tricky out there, and everybody has to be really careful about the content they're consuming and making sure they're not making snap judgments.
Well, it's funny because she was trying to teach critical thinking, and she, in doing so, you know, everyone allowed their own critical thinking to lapse. They couldn't, you know, even weigh both sides, and so she got fired for the exact thing she was trying to teach.
All right, so now that we've wrapped up some heavy topics, let's move on to some lighter, hopefully, advice questions. Hopefully you guys have given us a couple of easy ones this week.
First question is, I am attracted to minors.
All right, we got to get some help over
All
here.
right, someone call the police.
She needs a badge.
All right, what do you have for us, Chris?
Well, I've got a story about a weird boss. So tell me if you guys think this is weird. This man says he went away for a work trip, and his girlfriend's boss invited himself over while he was away. His girlfriend works from home and had a repairman coming over, and the boss didn't want her to be home alone. So he showed up, and the girlfriend doesn't think it's a big deal. It was just a moment of poor judgment by her boss. But the boyfriend feels like it's very suspicious, and he wants to say something to the boss.
Okay, first of all, it's not appropriate for the boyfriend to talk to the boss.
Oh, also, the boss is married with 2 young kids.
No, the boyfriend does not need to confront the boss. That would be so weird. I guess it first of all depends on the relationship she has with her boss. And I'm coming at this as like someone who's a boss of females, and I'm a female. I don't think it would be weird if I went over to one of my employees' houses. But yeah, the different sex does bring another element into it, but I think it does depend on their relationship they have.
Well, it must not be the
I think
kind
it
that
could
it would be
be-
normal for him to do that if the boyfriend's questioning it. I had a male boss that I was very close with that I think Peter, my husband, would have been like really comfortable with that.
Yeah.
We liked him. But I have other male bosses that wouldn't have been okay. It would have been weird.
I think it's weird that it was when the boyfriend was out of town that he didn't warn her before he came. He didn't say, or he didn't offer. You know, if you say like,
Right.
hey, I know Chris is out of town, and you know, it can be a little like my wife wouldn't want to be home alone with a repairman. Would you mind if I came over? Do you want me to send my wife over? I don't know, like make an offer, but just showing up does feel weird. But I can't say that it's all, I really can't say that it's malicious or sinister if there is a repairman there. It's not like he was
Right.
going to make a move with a repairman present, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
It's weird.
it's either was thoughtful of that boss to do that, or it's fishy and the story's fishy and the girlfriend is making that up to have a reason for the boss to have showed up. Like if he either trusts his girlfriend or not. So either she's telling the truth and thought it was weird that the boss popped over, and she could have just when he got to the door said, "No, thank you. I don't need you here," or she's making it up.
Yeah, I guess because I was looking at this question from the girlfriend's perspective, but I guess the guy wrote in, and yeah, it is a little fishy. I
True.
think
Maybe she was venting to the boss about being home alone, and like, oh, you know, maybe she was putting some feelers out.
No, I think that maybe they have something going on, that they're having an affair. The boyfriend called and was like, why is so-and-so there? And she had to make up a story.
Well, if that's not the case, then she should be the one to go to her
Absolutely.
boss and say, no, thank you. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Definitely not the boyfriend. And if
Agreed.
the shoe were on the other foot, let's say, because we always use Peter as an example,
Yeah.
he had a female coworker, boss, whatever, come to the house while I wasn't there for whatever reason, and it made me uncomfortable. I would definitely make Peter talk to her. I wouldn't
Yeah,
be the one to talk
exactly.
to her.
That automatically escalates it to another level.
Yeah.
And I mean, also, if it did make the girlfriend uncomfortable and she does want to talk to him, I would talk to the boss over him, because
Yeah, she needs to go to HR. If the whole story is true and he showed up.
yeah, don't go talk
He
to the
needs to go
boss,
to HR.
because you need to go to the boss over him,
And at least have a record of it.
Yes, because like if your boss is showing up at your house unannounced, that is weird. Because like even me being a boss of people, if I wouldn't show up unannounced at their houses, I would call and say like,
Yeah.
hey, this is going on. If you feel uncomfortable being there and you need someone to come over, I'm more than happy to come sit there for an hour.
Right.
Right. And as someone that worked in HR for 15 years, we used to get things like this often. And it was never, well, I can't say never. It was oftentimes not malicious. It was a boss who had good intentions.
Right.
And it just came out poorly, but it is helpful to get HR involved so that there is a record of it, and B, you have someone that's advocating for you and helping to coach the manager along and say, like, this is, you never want to put yourself in this position, and you never want to put someone else, like, you're making this automatically a power dynamic issue in a work relationship. You're just opening yourself up to a can of worms. So I think, yeah, HR is a good suggestion, but good luck to you. Hopefully
Let us know how that shakes out.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, what you got, Hillary?
This listener says, I'm moving to a different country very soon and am in total denial. I'm excited to move, but I'm also really attached to my friend group and routine here. I've become much more attached recently. How do I process this big upcoming change?
That's hard.
So they're moving out of the country and they're wondering how to process the change with the friend group.
I think just with everything, I think to me it kind of reads as they, now that they're moving, they feel very sentimental about their friends and their routine. And they're just like, now it's like, I think it's hitting home like, oh, I'm not going to be with these friends anymore.
Yeah.
I've been in this position. I moved out of the country, I don't know, 12 years ago. I moved out of the country. And I think what it is, because they're saying they're in denial now, they're feeling really sentimental, is that since you do know this big change is coming, everything is means more to you because you're thinking about it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be at this coffee place. Oh my gosh, they're going to have parties without me. Oh, everything. I'm not going to be doing the same drive. You're like thinking about things so much more. And so it makes it harder because you know that it's imminent, that things are going to be changing and that people's lives are going to go on without you. I mean, not that you won't still stay in touch or be friends, but you're going to be missing out on things. And I don't know, my advice would be how to process the change. We had because me and Peter, we were dating at the time, but we moved out of the country together. We had a big going away party. So we made it, like a big fun affair of let's all get one last big blowout before we leave. And, you make promises to stay in touch. You schedule Skype or Zoom dates or whatever with people. You kind of have all these things planned ahead so that like you're still going to be in touch. You're still going to be friends. It's so much easier now with social media and all the apps you can use to still text and chat with people. Like it will be different, but you can still stay in touch and feel kind of included and just know that just have those things prepared ahead of time.
I feel like it's helpful that you're having this big life change post-pandemic where we all had to learn how to keep these relationships alive.
Oh yeah, for
digitally, because I had a long distance relationship way before any of this was a possibility, and we couldn't join these. Like, what were those Netflix parties people were doing, and you could watch TV together. Like, we couldn't do any of that. So I feel like you've got such a good chance of keeping these relationships going, and on the bright side, building new relationships. Like, no relationships stay the same in different seasons of life. So I think embrace the change that you have coming. Yeah. Stay connected to your people from the past. Keep them in your present, but also be open to new friendships and new opportunities, because you can have your new best friendships come along anytime in life.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is start planning things in your where you're going to be living. Like, start getting excited about new things you're going to be doing, and start exploring ways to meet people and get out in the community and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's also good practice. Sorry to take away Zoe's answer, but you're going to have to do it again. I'm just assuming that they're not moving forever to another country. Maybe they are, but assuming that they're not, say they're like me, I lived for a year. If it's something like that, it's going to be the exact same thing. You're going to have new routines, new friends. You're going to have to say goodbye and leave again. So it's kind of like, this is a good practice on how to get used to those big changes.
Zoe, you're someone that leaves for work a lot. So how do you have any advice?
Well, I just think change is the only constant thing, and usually until you're about 18, unless you've moved a lot, your life has been really stable, so everything after that is just going to be constantly changing. So this is just probably the first big move they're making. So
yes.
And change is good and exciting. You can't do the same thing your whole life.
And even if you didn't move, there's still another one of your friends may move or get married or get pregnant. And everything, your whole routine and friend group is going to change anyways.
Yeah.
So just go with this season of life and have fun. Be open to new experiences. Oh, I have a man that's written in who says that he and his girlfriend have totally different personalities. He sounds like an extrovert or an introvert. He likes to spend his Fridays and Saturdays at home watching movies and reading. And his girlfriend likes to go out to the clubs with her friends and bars and have fun. And they're totally okay with the fact that the other one doesn't want to come. She accepts that he likes to stay in on weekends. He's comfortable with the fact that she likes to go out with her friends. However, and they go out with a shared friend group, their friends overlap. However, this past weekend, one of their mutual friends sent him a video of his girlfriend in the club making out with another man.
Well, that's a problem.
And he confronted her and she said, look, it's just fun. It's what happens in the clubs. This doesn't mean anything to me, but I just like to go out and be in the moment and have fun.
Which sounds like she's done that more than once.
Totally.
This is just her norm.
She's saying, don't be so insecure. It was just a kiss. And he says, I felt like our boundaries were the same, but now I'm questioning everything.
Yeah, and you should be.
Yes.
I think this is fair that you're questioning everything. I think a lot of talks need to be had. I think a lot of things need to be figured out. And I think this is...
And that she's trying to manipulate him and say that it's no big deal. She clearly was not open and honest about it. If it was so normal and comfortable for her, he would have already known this was happening.
Well, and that's what I'm going to say. If she's going out with their overlapping friend group, and this is the first time that someone sent a video of this happening, it can't be like happening all the time. It can't be the norm for her. Someone would have seen this before.
Unless maybe they
sometimes
don't all
people-
go out as big groups. Maybe
Yeah.
sometimes it's just the girls. And this time the
Maybe.
guys were there too.
People keep secrets sometimes because they don't want to be the one who ruins the relationship and tattles.
I know.
Yeah,
I
so.
wonder if she's looking for an out in the relationship and maybe she doesn't even know it yet. But you know, sometimes when you're
Right.
done with a relationship, you check out before you break up.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's what she's doing. And that's painful.
No, it sounds like she just wants both. She wants to go out and have fun, make out with strangers in bars, and then have the comfort of having her lovely boyfriend at home.
Which is fine
Waiting
if
for her.
that's what she wants to do and he's okay with it. But if he's not okay with it, then you don't get to go out and...
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he has to make a decision.
But like if he's like, I'm an introvert, and if you need to go out and like make out with people at clubs, then fine.
But if he's not okay with it, then sounds like this relationship isn't going to work out.
yeah, you guys need to be on the same page. And if she wants to be in her party girl era, good for her. Let her do it.
We have to cut her loose and find someone who has the same boundaries
Who wants to be home
and
reading.
morals as you.
Or start going out with her a little bit more.
No, but he shouldn't. You shouldn't ever be in a
No.
relationship where you feel like you have to babysit or be there so that they don't cheat on you.
Yeah,
true.
like I like the fact that you guys can go out separately sometimes, but like, but also I will say sometimes because I do feel like it's a little strange when it's always
Right,
her going
yes.
out and you're not there. That does seem like you're both sort of checked out
Right.
because sometimes you do just have to go along.
Suck
with
it up and
things.
be an extrovert.
Totally like you don't
Or
think-
suck it up and be an introvert.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes she needs to be in watching movies with you,
Like you got to find a happy medium.
and if she doesn't want to do that, she's not your girl.
And in the long run, don't you want to be with someone that you want to spend time with?
Right.
And not like all the time, but like to have shared interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Life is long. You need to find someone that you have fun doing these things with. All right. Good luck. Any other questions from your side, Hillary?
Yes. I have one from a woman who said, I overheard work colleagues say that I seem arrogant. I know I am opinionated, but I don't ever mean to be snobby. I don't want people to think this of me or for it to affect my growth in my career. How should I remedy this?
Did someone write this email about me?
Did you write it in? Are people calling you arrogant at work,
Have you
Zoe?
gotten this feedback, Zoe?
No, I just
Awfully quiet over there. Get Luke back on. Where's Luke when we need him? How to not seem arrogant at work when people think you're arrogant.
Well, or to fix the fact that they already think you're arrogant.
Well, you know, I think
I
this
don't
happens sometimes
know.
with people that are a little bit more shy because I've gotten feedback in the past that I seem like closed off or snobby. And it's
Me
really
too.
just that I'm like shy or like don't know how to start a conversation or don't want to insert myself. And it's not at all that I'm like intentionally snobby or standoffish. I just am shy sometimes.
I've received that feedback a lot, actually. And kind of recently from someone I worked with who got to know me and then said originally when they met me a couple years ago, they thought I was super stuck up and snobby. And I was really just very shy.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I guess that does come off that way sometimes. And I guess the way to deal with that is just try to have more fun with them and try to like not be so in your shell.
I think if it's affecting you career-wise and you don't want it to, I would maybe think about exploring therapy as an option because I think sometimes this is something I've had to sit with at times. There are times when I've been standoffish and I've had to ask myself like, well, okay, if I'm really asking myself and people are noticing it, I think my boundaries are too high. Like I've been hurt in the past. And so now I'm keeping my walls too high. And now it is making it hard for people to get close to me. So if that is affecting you in your career and it's a problem, maybe the idea of therapy would be a good one and just say, this is what I'm experiencing. It is holding me back at work. What can you do to help me work through it? Like maybe it is something where your boundaries are too high.
She does mention, though, that she knows she's opinionated. So it could not be that. It could be maybe she's just really opinionated and not shy about sharing her opinions, and someone takes that as arrogant. And maybe, you know, sometimes you have to read the room a little and not, you know, especially if it's a big difference of opinions, to maybe not come off so aggressively. I don't know if that's what's happening, but to take a step back, listen to other people's opinions, maybe not offer yours unless asked, or feel the room.
Zoe, thoughts?
This symbol is mouth closed, ears open.
Zoe is squeezing her fingers together. It
Middle
looks kind of like a shadow
fingers.
puppet,
It's kind of like the I love you.
but the middle fingers
Close
are
your
down on top
mouth,
of her
Keep your
thumb.
ears open.
We'll take a picture.
Does someone show you, like,
Like
if you're in conversation with someone, are you supposed to do that to tell them to shut up and listen?
Hold on, let me take your photo.
really,
Zoe.
like you can teach your children. But someone was telling me about teaching their children, and I was like, oh, that's great. I need that for myself. I'm going to remind myself, just keep my mouth closed and listen.
You know, and some good advice I've gotten on that note is, or I've heard, is listen twice as much as you speak.
Yeah.
So if you find that you're in conversations with people and you're always the one that's like dishing out your opinions,
Yeah.
I think
People
it's
don't
time to
like
like, no, reel it back in a little bit.
People want to be heard. Yeah. They don't want to feel like they're always
Definitely.
being preached at,
Definitely.
especially in a work environment.
Right. And we get it so much everywhere else. You open your social media and you see everyone's opinions on everything. And I think people are just a little bit worn out by it.
People love a listener.
Yep. Just start out your conversations with, hey, how are you? How have you been? What's going on in your world? Be more of an approachable listener.
Another perspective is, because we don't have a lot of details, if you just overheard one person saying this, it might not be everybody's opinion.
Right.
Because you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You won't please everybody. If it's just one person, I mean, I'm not saying don't work on it. You know, you could still work on yourself, but also maybe don't be so hard on yourself, because maybe not everybody thinks that
Right.
about
Don't
you.
give so much weight to one person's opinion.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing well at your job and you don't have a problem with who you are,
The person to ask would
Continue.
be your boss or your leader.
Yeah.
Just have a conversation and say, I heard this and I'm feeling this. And just for my own development, do you feel like this is something I need to work on? And do
That's
you
a
have
great
any
idea.
suggestions? Because your leader or boss should be someone you trust who's helping you to get to the next level.
invite him over to your house the next time a repairman's coming over and just talk about it.
On a one-on-one at the house.
Oh, man.
Especially while your girlfriend or boyfriend's out at the club.
Yeah.
You're home alone reading. I am being bullied by my stepsisters. I just had a baby and they made a comment about shopping for new clothes. They made snarky comments about how I still wear horror-themed clothing and band shirts from Spencer's and need to dress my age. Honest opinion, do I need to dress more like a mom, or can I still wear what I wore in high school? They expect me to dress like them in their cute tops and heels or flats, but that's just not me. I want my 30s to be about loving and accepting myself, and I don't want to go back to my depression years of my 20s. How can I convince them I want to wear these clothes and get them to accept me for it? And how can I meet other moms like me?
Well, my official
Did Zoe just fall over?
Did you just fall
So
down?
I guess the question is, can you be an adult with a baby and still shop at Spencer's and Hot Topic? And
Yeah.
Of course. Do what
course.
you want.
yeah,
Wear
Who
what you
cares?
want.
there are people like you out there. It is hard to find. I will say, like, as a mom, you do start to feel a little bit different about wanting to do things that are a little bit more alternative or things that the other moms aren't doing. But, like, still be you. Do your thing. If you want to wear your band shirts and your horror tees from Spencer's, there are plenty of other moms out there doing it too. Be yourself.
You may encourage someone else to want to wear what they want to wear.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll find your tribe.
That's what I was saying. It may
Exactly.
take like cycling through some mommy and me classes, but you'll start finding your people. Look in like local Facebook groups and just try to find people who you connect with on things. And those people, if you guys connect on the things you both enjoy, won't care that you're wearing a band tee.
Also, you may connect really well with a mom who dresses in cute tops and heels. Like, I have friends that I don't have the same style as. Like, just because you don't
Right.
dress the same doesn't mean you won't like them or that they won't like you.
Yeah.
As long as you're confident in who you are, that's what matters.
It's your body. You do, and you control what goes into and onto your body.
Yeah. And if your stepsisters are bullying you, then just bully them.
Well, that's the thing. Your stepsisters may never be the ones that accept you. And I think just accept that you have to look for your tribe outside of your stepsisters. And that's okay too.
right.
But you can't always force it.
Other people's opinions of you is none of your business.
Yep. Exactly. I'm a big believer in that. I just don't care what other people think of me. That's their
That's for
problem.
them. Yeah. Totally.
And if they have a problem with it, then they're just not your people.
No. So go, you know what? Buy more Spencer's clothing, buy more band t-shirts, and you do it. Just keep going. You'll find your moms.
Yeah, go forth and find your people.
And then tell them they can find their people on Sisters Not Saints.
Absolutely.
Yep. And tell them to submit all their questions, their confessions, their requests for advice, any topics you think are interesting you'd like to hear us debate. Submit to sistersnotsaints.com. DM us on Sisters Not Saints Podcast on Instagram. Look for us on TikTok under Sisters Not Saints Podcast.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.